Hey everyone, so today we're going to be talking about the topic of trans people and drag. So a common thing I see pop up is kind of like whether or not trans people can do drag. And like the answer to that is obviously yes, trans people can do drag. But take my advice and never call a trans woman a drag queen unless you are 100% sure they are a drag queen. So let me tell you, they are going to be pretty pissed off if you call them a drag queen and they are not a drag queen. Now, for those of you that don't know, I'll explain the difference between what drag is and what trans means. So, drag is a performance art that takes gender expectations and often kind of like dials them up to the extreme. So, an example of this is like, say, drag queens. Drag queens don't generally aim to present as like an average looking woman. Drag queens go over the top. A lot of times they have very big hair. Their mannerisms are very extreme. So, like, they take a feminine mannerism and they like dial it up like tenfold. So they do everything a lot of times to the extreme. Now there's different types of drag, sure, but like that's an example of like typical drag. It's playing with like gender roles, gender expectations, and a lot of times like really taking them to the extreme. And a trans person is simply a person that doesn't identify with the gender they were assigned at birth. So, a trans woman is somebody that's assigned, say, male at birth, and they identify as a woman. They're a woman. So these two things, drag and being trans, are not the same. One is about identity, and the other is about art. Now, when most people think of drag, the first thing that comes to mind for a lot of people is drag queens, and then they think of gay men that present as women, like in an over the top kind of way, like we were talking about earlier. But the truth is that there are other types of drag, and there are other types of people that do drag. So, like, drag kings exist. They might not get as much media attention as drag queens, but they do exist. And, bi people, queer people, and trans people, they can all do drag as well. Now, something I see pop up from time to time is the argument that trans people shouldn't be able to do drag. And the argument is that trans people, usually this is focused more towards trans women, have an unfair advantage being drag queens because of the extra passability they get from being trans. And sure, some people might gasp at passable drag queens from time to time, but the true heart of drag is not just about passability. A lot of drag queens don't even aim to pass in any way, and even the competitions that are centered around beauty are rarely about passing. They're still about the gowns the drag queens wear and everything else. Like, it's more about like the makeup and the gowns and the hair and the personality. Like, rarely is drag just about looks. Like, I feel like most drag queens, they're more personality than looks, but it's the whole complete package that makes them a drag queen, right? It's also important to note that not all trans people are on HRT or plan on taking HRT, which is hormone replacement therapy. So, like, a trans person doesn't have to transition. That doesn't make them any less trans. And even if they did take HRT, it shouldn't disqualify them. And HRT doesn't necessarily make people passable either. Like, sure, it does for a lot of people, but, the mileage varies and, has different effects on different people. Trans people have been a part of drag communities for a while, okay? They are nothing new to drag communities. They've been a part of drag communities since before I was born. And to deny them the right to go into competitions and stuff these days for being trans when they helped even build up the drag community, a lot of them, I think that's complete BS. There are a lot of trans and non-binary people doing drag, and not all of them are out of the closet for being trans or non-binary. A lot of them stay in the closet when they perform because of people that feel that trans or non-binary people shouldn't do drag, which is complete BS. Like it's complete crap. And while some of the trans and non-binary people that do drag might use terms like drag king and drag queen, there's other terms that they might use as well, like trans queen or trans king, or something else. I've heard other things floated around in the past that haven't really been floating around, but these days I've been seeing trans queen and drag king, trans king popping up a bit more. And not surprisingly, a lot of the people that feel that trans people shouldn't do drag, surprise, surprise, also feel that trans people shouldn't be doing a lot of other things. So they're just the same people that just typically hate trans people and try to deny them the right to even exist in the first place. So I strongly feel that while most trans people aren't performing drag, they should never be denied the right to perform drag if they wanted to. You want to know the tea? The real tea? Drag is a form of art that should never deny the tea. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe.